Somebody shout, I must be about my Father's business. Another reason that some leaders have no following and some believers have no support is because they're doing the right thing the wrong way. Which is why many of us right now have heard God say certain aspects of what it is we're endeavoring to do. But how many know you have to wait and get instructions? God sometimes will show you the thing in a panoramic. He'll give you the big view of it. But then you got to listen. Somebody shout, I got to listen to details. Why? Because if you don't listen to details from God, as you seek to accomplish God's will, you're going to be forced to look back to your experience to decide what to do. And your history and the devil will make some suggestions that you should follow. You got that? Tell your neighbor, don't listen to your history. Because it created where you were. If you want to be back where you were, all you got to do is listen to your history. Don't listen to your history. Because it created where you were. Somebody shout, I want to be current. Which means I got to listen to my destiny. My destiny will bring me current. I got to listen to the voice of God concerning where I'm supposed to be now and where I'm supposed to move forward. And I'm saying, believers. So now watch this now. So if you don't get clear details over God's will as you have already proceeded, we're not talking about something you don't know. We're talking about something you know in part. Oh God. For we know in part, which means God will show you certain aspects of what He wants you to do. You got that? So you got to get the details and the instructions over how to operate right now with this part. Somebody shout, Lord, show me how to handle this part. Now listen, and if you don't press in and get clarity from God over the details of how to execute this part, you will listen to the devil or your history. Because every time you experience life and you run into something that you're not familiar with, your mind goes back to something you filed away. And it refers to it as an operational manual for how to deal with it now. You got to have believers. So it's possible that things are not working for you. You have no support from God in what you're doing. You have no following as a leader because you're doing the right thing. See, and that's why he's so stubborn. Because you know you're doing the right thing. But the only thing worse than just flat out doing the wrong thing, somebody say it, is doing the right thing the wrong way. Number 3. Why some leaders have no following and some leaders have no support in their ideals. Doing the right things at the wrong time. I got some people right now who would not believe me when I told them at what time I'm the pastor. As if I got some vested interest in keeping them down. Keep your brother down. And so now they have to find out the hard way. Because they wouldn't go through the process that God wanted them to go through someone whose only interest was in their holistic welfare. Are you understand what I'm saying? So now, listen, some are doing the right thing at the wrong time. And how many know there's always going to be some kind of, it's going to be always some kind of distance between the delivery and you being in the right place. Things will always sort of be out of sync. You understand what I'm saying? Now listen to me. So there are two times you need to be concerned about. Only 2 times. Right? There are certain things in God that God says now. Somebody shout now. Now. Like, when is now? Now. When is it now? Now. Tell your neighbor, now is now. Now. When God has ordained something that's now, God says today. And no devil in hell can stop it. Because God has already orchestrated this in His heart and His mind. It's integral to a whole lot of things that got to happen in place. A whole lot of intersections got to take place to bring some other things to pass. So God says now, and there's a permanency to it because God knows that in His wisdom, and God is an economist, He's got to make sure that other things happen other than what's going on with you. Somebody shout, that's now. There are other things that have nothing to do with now. There are things which happen in the fullness of time. So now watch this now. So what is the fullness of time about? It is about God using time to bring you to fullness. Which means it could happen today, it could happen next week, it could happen next month, next year, next decade, and it's totally predicated upon, somebody shout, fullness. What do you mean predicated upon fullness? God's waiting for you to grow up. It's simply, I tell you that He's got all the time in the world. And whenever something is predicated upon fullness of time, this means God said, I just simply got to get you over yourself. I got to simply just get you to a place where you really can do what you do for other people. I got to get you to a place where you follow your cues from me and not the faces of men and not the responses or the actions thereof of men. Somebody shout, when I grow up, it's the fullness of time. So now watch this now. That's not now. That's not today. That is whenever you decide that you're done with your life. You understand what I'm saying? And for some people, that's really what you're dealing with certain nuances of your calling. There are certain things God said, you know what? Yes, I said it. Yes, I've called you. Yes, I've promised you. But you're still easily moved. Right. That ain't the fullness of time, because time would have brought to pass your fullness. You got that, believers? Tell your neighbor, the devil is a lie. Some of that stuff is you don't do the work to resolve your issues while you're conscious. And because your soul needs to resolve stuff, you start putting on plays in your mind when you go to sleep. So now watch this now. So the remedy of a person moving on that is you got part what God said, part what you're saying to yourself. And an equation will whole lot. Because God will never cooperate with your misunderstanding. God will never cooperate with your lie. God will never cooperate with your half-truth. You understand what I'm saying, believers? So that's another reason that some leaders have no fellowship, some leaders have no support in their endeavors. Right? Why? Listen to me. Please get this. Let's reverse engineer success in the kingdom. Why would God tell you to do something and not support you? That's what it comes down to me. Why would God call you to do something and not give you the emotional wherewithal, the spiritual strength, and physical life to actually carry it out? Somebody shout, it don't make sense. That don't make sense to me. That does not make sense to me. Which means that if I don't have the spiritual strength, the emotional fortitude, oh, come on, build up in my emotional man to handle the nuances of my assignment, you can't wear me out. You cannot. You understand what I'm saying? You can't make me quit. You didn't hire me. Hey, come on. How you gonna make me quit? You didn't hire me. I've been employed by the Spirit. Yeah. I tell you, if you start in the Spirit, stay in the Spirit. See? And that's how you remain fresh and fervent in your assignment. Always advancing, never declining, always abounding, never barren, always bearing fruit, never fruitless, never in Fruit Loops. I understand what I'm saying, believers? So this is why some of us as leaders don't have following, some of us as believers don't have God's support. If God told you to do it, why is He not giving you the emotional strength to do it? Like break it down. Did God ordain break down? No. The devil did. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But you got to make room for it. And the Bible says, give him no vacancies, give him no room. I understand what I'm saying, believers? So leadership is not about managing a problem-free existence. You know what leadership is about? I want to have a better quality of problem in the future than I've got right now. What do you mean by that? I'm going to be dealing with something and probably not dealing with it very well, but it won't be this. Look at somebody, tell them, as I get better, my problems get better. You got that? As I grow up, my this simple stuff. So now listen now. So some people won't lead because they think leadership is that you got to make sure you never have a problem. Well, do people really believe that? Yes, because look at how they criticize you when you do have a problem. And if you were a leader, you would never have this problem. But you guys said that leadership is full of problems. It's not about whether I have problems or not. It's how I deal with them when they happen. You got that? Now, why I got to say that? Because some of you need to be free to lead. And some of you are so used to recoiling when people criticize you because you haven't been able to yet execute a perfect and flawless leadership campaign. And in fact, it's absolutely inconsistent with what's true about leadership. As long as you're leading, you will have problems. As long as you're leading, you will have breakdown. You will have trouble. You will have incidences and occurrences that you could have never counted on. What matters is not that it happens. What matters is how you deal with it when it happens. You understand what I'm saying? So even as we grow and mature, our problems should become superior than the problems we had when we were immature. Isn't that right? See that? Look at somebody tell them, I'm ready for better problems. Y'all had a hard time saying it. You said that as if you expect to not have any. And in doing so, what you are subliminally suggesting back to me is that you have an asinine thought that your leadership is going to be problem-free. Foolishness. In this world, you will have trouble. Who said that? Y'all got that? Who said? Jesus said, right? Troubles are a problem. Problems are nondescript. It's just trouble. It's just problem. It's just issue. It's just breakdown. It's just mishap. It's just misunderstanding. It just stuff breaks. It just fall. Right? It's going to happen. Right? It's going to happen. What matters is how you manage it. See? And let me show you what immature people do. They find a way to shift the responsibility of settling the problem to other people. Because the goal of an immature person is to be blameless when a problem occurs. The goal of a mature person is to be responsible when a problem occurs. It goes like this. I didn't do it, but I'm surely ready to solve it. If you're not to blame. Or, I did do it. So what? You've done something too. And I'm still ready to solve it.